Hello and welcome. This is AIL TV. My name is Joseph Otieno Adamson. You are not going to be watching me. You are going to be watching a lady called Sonja Kamara from For You Too magazine. Due to COVID-19, we are practicing social distancing. So Sonja Kamara has got two distinguished guests. They have got stories to tell. And of course, I don't want to waste much of your time. Sonja Kamara, you are on.
Good afternoon. Welcome to For You Too Newsmag. We are so happy to have you here on our TV programme. Today, we are going to be looking at the Black Lives Matters movement, but just a little bit about the operation of For You Too. We are a community platform and we are here for you. So today on the show, in the light of the death of George Floyd on May the 25th, nearly 8 weeks ago, thousands of people took to streets all over the globe and online in support of the Black Lives Matter. On today's show, we're going to explore what does justice and equality look like moving forward? And is this the moment where we could have true equality? Our guests, and we've got two distinguished guests. We've got Andrew Boateng and we've also got Alan Watts. Now, Andrew Boateng has got a great story. A qualified FA coach, scout for Crystal Palace, grassroots coach for Parkview Rangers FC in Tottenham. He played youth football. I mean, this is a gentleman who's done a lot of stuff around football. But more importantly, he's a course officer at City University. And then we have Alan. Alan Watts he spent a lifetime working in engineering industries, was a shop steward in the 1970s, at a time when there was 14,000 members in the Lee Valley. And Alan recognised the growing sentiment for anti-migration and became an anti-racist protester, which he is still campaigning for justice and equality to today. So last week, there was peaceful protest that took place outside Tottenham Police Station. That was in conjunction with Haringey Stand Up to Racism, as well as Stop and Search. And at protest, we were there and we spoke to a couple of protesters. So let's have a little listen to what they had to say.
Hi Gary.
Hi sister.
Great. We are here outside Tottenham Police Station and you are one of the Black Lives Matters activists. How is the campaign going?
It is going very, very well. We've had tens of thousands of people out on the streets, not just of London and the big cities, but all over the country, from little villages.
So you're getting solidarity, but I need to ask you, what changes, what needs to change? Because it seems to be a bit of a revolving door, where we are here time and time again with police brutality. Yeah. What do we need to change?
Well, we need to change the institutions. There's no point just having a little unconscious bias.
Hello, Jemima.
Hello.
I've seen you today as part of the Black Lives Matter campaign.
Yeah.
Why are you here today?
I'm here today because I am getting increasingly angry, upset and basically emotional about all the racism that I'm learning about.
So just give me one thing that you'd like to see change in the society. Just
more people aware of the racism that exists here in this
Tottenham
country. And in this country, yeah.
Obviously, it's disappointing that we're back at square one. It's 2020, and there's so many other things going on. We know with
COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah. So the issue around police brutality continues, and we shouldn't be talking the demands that we put in today in 2020, but sadly that's where the police force are.
What's the solution?
I would like to see that further developed, so that we have adults that can argue squarely why the contribution of black politics
is not represented. Hello Ken, we're outside Tottenham Police Station. I know that you represent Haringey Stop and Search, and we're here representing Black Lives Matter, Stop the Tasering by the Police. How's the campaign going?
The campaign is going very well, in the sense that it's going to grow. The simple fact is that we're shining a light on a particular aspect of the injustice that we face on a daily basis.
Quickly, just give me one solution very quickly that we can look at. As you said, your focus, one solution that would make the situation better.
What we have to do, we have to set up a community policing strategy group,
Okay.
so that we can have oversight of the policing in our community.
Thank you so much. Hello, Zetu. We're outside Tottenham Police Station, and I've seen you at the Black Lives Matter campaign and march. So how's it been for you today?
It's been really nice to see people in solidarity with the movement and keeping the momentum going. We're here to protest against police brutality and encourage the banning of tasers and the stopping of stop and search in our areas, to demonstrate against over-policing of our black community.
Overall,
yeah.
So as a young black person, do you feel safe living in a borough, say Haringey?
I think I have certain privileges, but I definitely feel unsafe. And I think there's this misconception that black people are dangerous and that they are, people are scared of us, but actually we're scared for our lives every day when we leave the house.
As a young black person?
As a young black person, we are terrorised by the police. Our lives at risk. The statistics that you can read if you don't believe it. We're disproportionately
stops and search. But let me just quickly ask you, there's one solution that you would like to even suggest to the police to make it better for the young people. What would that be?
Have supervisors with them who look over stop and searches.
So some accountability.
If they're going to continue to stop and search people, they need someone there to mediate it and safeguard it and make sure they're doing it correctly and for the right reasons.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care of yourself.
Thank you very much.
So there you are. You can see the young people, all people actually sharing their views literally about banning the taser and police brutality. And this really moves on quite nicely because we have got, as I said, Alan with us. And Alan was actually part of the Battle of Wood Green. But before we talk about the Battle of Wood Green, I just want to give people a little bit of history that on Friday, March the 14th, in 1949, Haringey, the headline for the Edmonton paper was Ban Mosley. Oswald Mosley's fascist movement was marching from Hackney and tried to march through Tottenham. And there was representation from 3 council members and they banned the campaign. The Oswald Mosley movement was unable to actually march through Tottenham. We then moved forward, and I think this is really important. This is why it's great that you've got lived stories. We move forward to 1977, and we can talk about the Battle of Wood Green. And this is literally a running battle that was fought in Wood Green with the fascists and the anti-racists. So what I wanted to do is to ask Alan, just quickly, just to introduce Alan and ask Alan, you were there in 1977 at the Battle of Wood Green. So tell us, why were you at that campaign?
Actually, you've already shown a number of pictures about why it is very, very important that we stop fascists from marching through migrant and diverse areas like Wood Green, like Lewisham later on, and the various, and Hackney, and what. So we knew what was likely to happen and what they were going to do. We knew that the National Front was getting bigger and bigger. It was getting more votes in London and around the country. We had to stop them from marching. So, what we did, what happened on the day isn't as important as the lead up to and what was done in the build up to the station actually.
But what you said was quite interesting, because what you did say, that movement took a mass of people from all different backgrounds, including the political Labour Party, you had the Asian community, you had the West Indian community there as well, all coming together to actually go toe-to-toe with the National Front on that Saturday. So how did you mobilise? How were the groups mobilised to represent to stop the movement?
It's not difficult to explain to migrants or to lots of other people, trade unionists and that sort of people, the Labour Council and lots of other people realised certainly remembered. Many of them remembered what the fight against the Nazis. I mean, it was, only 40 years previous to that. And therefore they understood very well what was going on. It was relatively easy to nail the National Front as actually being Nazi, which is why eventually the Anti-Nazi League was built. But on that day, in the weeks before that day, we had leafleted like mad around the place, fly posted, gone and visited trade unions, gone into local shops, and the thing was, we used what had traditionally been called a united front. We were united with forces that we may not agree with politically. We all have different views on one thing and another. One thing we were going to fight was against racism, and that was the political background, to be honest.
So, as you said, the National Front in the 70s was getting momentum, and I actually don't think people realise, in a borough like Haringey, in 1975, they had over 4 individuals stand to be local councillors in Haringey, and one of them in Noel Park, Mr. Squires, actually got 395 votes. So the movement was getting organised. So what you've just mentioned, that it was important to mobilise comrades, people that wanted to fight racism, was one of the ways that you managed to overcome and actually win the battle, even though there was quite a few arrests on that day, I understand.
That's true. Yeah.
So why do you feel, Alan, people still have to campaign? Why are you still campaigning? Because we are talking about justice and equality. So why have we not achieved justice and equality yet?
Well, first and foremost, there is a fundamental, which, I mean, people who are watching this program and people who are involved in this program will understand very well that in this society, where the need for our rulers to divide us from each other is seriously important. They do it all the time. You only have to read the Sun and the Mail and the Express and see that they are continually, and the BBC as well, by the way, but those newspapers are continually splitting us from each other. This is what we fear we're doing. People were becoming convinced by some of their arguments, especially when the Ugandan Asians came over in 74, Malawi Asians in 77, all those sort of things meant a rise in racism. I can remember, for instance, seeing spray painted on the front of a shop in Hackney exactly the same headline that had been in the Sun the day before. So this was feeding in the whole time, and it had to be stopped. We had to get the largest amount of people out.
So you did. You had over 3,000 on that day. So I just wanted to quickly go over to Andrew. And Andrew, I want you to thank you so much for being part of the show, to share your story with us, because we understand that you had a confrontation with your son and the police, and he was actually threatened to be tasered on the day in your presence. So we are talking about justice and equality, and we know that there's a large percentage of Black people that get stopped and searched, but you are here, a credible person in the community, doing a lot of community work, and this incident happened. Can you share that story with our viewers?
Yes, in case people haven't heard about this story yet. So myself and my son, who's 13 years old, we were actually doing a charity bike ride for an organisation called Kickoff at 3 that I've done some work with over the years. And the background to them is that they actually do work trying to bridge the gap between, youths and also the police. Anyway, so we set off probably about a month ago on a charity bike ride along sort of Tottenham. We went to Markfield Park. There was a police cordon along Markfield Park. We went there to see if there's any of the players that I normally coach at Park involved in the incident. Went up to the cordon, probably stayed about 50 meters away, realized there was no one involved that we knew, continued under the canal, which is adjacent to the area where the police incident happened. There was a stabbing there. We were cycling along the path for maybe, I don't know, about possibly about 3 or 4 minutes, and then my son stopped ahead of me. He stopped to turn around to see where I was. I was about 10 meters behind him. He went to pedal off again, and somebody just jumped out at him from nowhere, sort of screaming and shouting. They grabbed his arm. That person was obviously a bit crazy. He thought it was somebody trying to mug him because there have been incidences where bikes have been stolen in the area quite recently. It was the height of coronavirus time, so he thought that nobody should really be approaching him.
Not social distancing, yes.
Social distancing. Okay, so he obviously was quite frightened. He thought he was being attacked. The person was shouting and raving, so he thought it was a crazy person. That person then sort of pursued him into a bush because he pulled his arm away from the person.
So where were you at the time when this was taking place?
I was literally about 5 meters behind, away on the path right behind him.
So you could see everything in full view?
I could see everything in full view. I'd stopped. And so he was then pursued into a bush. The guy was shouting and raving. He didn't know who it was. He was scared, frightened, thought it was a crazy person. The person then brandished her. My son went into the bush. He didn't know it was a thorny rose bush. He couldn't get anywhere because on the other side there was a canal. So he tripped over a rose vine. Felt the police were standing over him. He didn't know it was a police officer at this time.
At what point did the individual identify themselves as a police officer?
Well, I don't think they did at that point. It was only until after when they led him out, cut and bleeding, bruised. And at that point, they'd handcuffed him. And then I think they read him his rights as he was going along. He was 13 years old as well.
And where were you? So at this time, had you as a parent, did you identify this was your son?
Yes. Well, basically, it all happened in a split second. So as soon as the person grabbed my son and then started shouting, and then I could see he chased him into the bush with the taser. I was about to move towards the bush, and then another officer, I didn't know it was an officer at the time, came at me from the side angle and held a taser up to me, started shouting, get on your knees, freeze, put your hands behind your head. So I couldn't actually go into the bush to defuse the situation there because I had a taser angled on me. And at that point, I could see that it was a police officer, but only after they'd done that. So that's how it all unfolded.
So obviously, did you feel they would have discharged the taser on yourself and your son? Did you feel that they would?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, we didn't actually know who they were, what was happening, etc. When we did realize it was a police officer, I did feel that anything could happen. I was shouting out, "Stop! That's my son. He's only 13." And the fact that my son had sort of he went into fight or flight mode and ran into the bush, I thought that maybe they might discharge it then at him. But I couldn't see beyond the bush, so I didn't actually know what was happening in the bush, whether he was going to come out or not.
So the fact that sorry, Andrew. So the fact that you were there, so do you think that this could have had a different outcome if you wasn't there as a parent and you had a young black there, without parents, that could have been a totally different outcome?
Definitely. I mean, it's not very often that you get a child stopped out with his parent because they're normally out by themselves, and this is the danger and the scary thing about it because as a 13-year-old child, they're all out normally by themselves or with their friends, and you're not really going to get a parent out with them. So it's fortunate that I was there, and I don't know how he would have handled it himself as well, because I obviously had to diffuse the situation afterwards myself. So.
Yeah. So I mean, this is obviously that's why people are protesting to ban the taser, ban police brutality, ban the injustice, and we want to promote equality. So, Alan, I want to ask you, what could we do so that we can move towards? You've been doing this for a very long time. If you was at the Battle of Wood Green in Duckett's Common, head to head with the fascists, the National Front, and I'm sure that you've been outside Tottenham Police Station on many occasions for with police dying in custody, etc., police brutality. But what can we do as a society so that we can have a true multicultural society that is fair for education, employment, health and well-being, even people's happiness, because there is a statistic that says people from black and ethnic minorities are not as happy as people from other communities. You know, and how can we fight the Mosley fascists and the National Front? What can you do to make something change? A structural.
Can I just follow on what Andrew has been saying?
Yes,
because
certainly.
I've been doing my daily walk from my house to my allotment, and for 5 or 6 weeks, more than that probably. I have seen, and this is a 35-minute walk. I go exactly the same way every day. In that time, I have seen 5 stops by the police of black people, only black people. I mean, I don't get stopped, you know, but I've seen it 5 times. I've got a funny feeling that Andrew fits into that pattern. If I've seen it 5 times on a 35-minute walk over the same distance, just tell me how many other times it's happened in Tottenham when I wasn't around. 2 of those stops were hard stops right in front of another vehicle. Twice. I mean, you just don't see this. Yeah, hard stop right in front, like they did on Mark Duggan. I mean, that sort of stop was done. The other thing is, I got photographs of these, but I took photographs on 2 occasions of the tactical support group. I never see the tactical support group in Tottenham. They are up to something. They don't run around just willy-nilly. They are in Tottenham for a reason. And it may be that they intend to intimidate the local population. I don't know.
So you need to let our viewers know when you say the tactical support group. What this is a special part of the police force, is it?
Yes, quite. You don't see them very often. They usually turn up when there's what they consider to be some serious thing happening. They have blue vans and they are usually full up with policemen. Maybe 8 policemen inside the van on both occasions. And to be honest, it may have been the same van twice, but it was over time. But they are special, like the old special patrol group. They changed the name because it got such a bad reputation. But the tactical support group is there to do exactly the same thing. They will turn out and they've got their hard nuts in there who will crack heads, no problem. And you know, when one black guy is standing with his little motorbike and 8 policemen are standing around him, and I'm pretty sure he's intimidated. It doesn't happen to me.
It doesn't. No, that's really quite interesting what you said there, Alan, because not only Andrew's story, but we know that during COVID, individuals from black and ethnic minority, especially young black men, have been stopped 4 or 5 times more, even during COVID. So you've got less people out, but they still seem to be being stopped even more. So Andrew, what does justice look like for you? Because I mean, how is your son now?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously at the beginning he was very shaken. He wasn't actually sleeping in his own room. He had to sleep in my room and the parents' room on the floor. So yeah, he's getting on a lot better now. But of course, he's still apprehensive of the police. Sometimes if he sees sirens, etc., his sirens, then he does still get a bit sort of panicky about it. What does justice look like now? I guess it's about finding positive solutions, sort of ramping up the campaign to end sort of stop and search, ban the use of tasers. It's about positive action in terms of putting forward some initiatives towards the police, which I've already done because I've been working on loads of different things even before this incident. Can you give us some
initiative? Can you just give us maybe 2 initiatives that you've put forward that can make a difference?
Yeah. One of them is a Safe Zones initiative, which is orchestrated by Corey Johnson, who's founder of Defenders Entertainment. So they've got a hub which is entertainment and music production, etc., out in Lewisham. But they've been working with Community Youth London, which is an organisation which is youth focused, and it's a Safe Zones initiative. So it's about empowering people in the local community and any stakeholders that come into incidences of knife crime. So whether you're a shopkeeper, whether you're a school pupil,
or a victim, you could be a victim.
Yeah. So it's about delivering training to these people, whether it's like first aid, whether it's stop and search training, such as the stuff that I've been doing with Y Stop as well. So teaching the kids and youths about you know, how to approach, you know, a stop and search situation. So remain calm, always take the badge number, etc. of the police and get a receipt, all that kind of stuff.
So there is quite a few organisations, you know, exactly like one of the organisations that organised the peaceful process, the Haringey Stop and Search team were there as well. So yes. I understand that. And what's the other initiative?
The other initiative would be something like, I've been doing some work with Michael Dewberry, actually, who's ex-Chelsea player and Leeds United player, as well as other teams. But he's got an organisation now called Made Leaders. And what they do is they go into organisations, Made Leaders. They go into organisations and they talk to them about, you know, sort of leadership issues normally. So, and one of the things that he's been doing is actually unconscious bias training as well. Yes, so something like that would definitely help the police to try and change it from within and sort of end the systemic sort of racism within the police.
Racism and so that's interesting. So I wanted to ask Alan, actually. So Alan, what do you think about the police officers receiving unconscious bias training? Do you think that would be something that could benefit the officers?
Well, it could certainly benefit them if they took any notice of it. But I have a funny feeling that the sort of let me give you an example. In northwest London, two sisters were murdered not so long ago, a few weeks ago.
Tragically, yes.
Yeah, the police were taking photographs of their two women's bodies and passing them around. Now, I think that's going to take a bit of work to overcome this bias that they have, so-called bias that they have. What I call racism is what they call bias. Now, there's no question that I'm sure there are a lot of policemen which are sort of honest guys of this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of people in there who are not. There is one example in Edmonton where a swastika was painted on the inside of the lift, inside the police station, and the only person that could have put it there was a policeman. Now, if that sort of thing, if you're going to overcome that sort of thing, we've got a problem on our hands. I think let's ban the taser. In fact, I would like to see, if we had to do anything, if we're going to do a few things, another thing would be to have policemen from the community. I am absolutely convinced.
Right. So I'm glad you've mentioned that, because we've only got a few minutes left. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So what are the thoughts from, let's hear your thoughts, Alan and Andrew, about defunding the police, because it's not a free service. We as taxpayers, we pay for their service through our rates every year, you know, and they go up and up, you know. We can actually work out what percentage we pay for the service. I think it's clear to say people in our community, for certain communities, would say it's not a very good service, so we can't fire that service and find a new supplier. But what can we do? You think defunding or not making a payment towards the service could be something we could look at as an initiative? Alan?
I have doubts where I think we can argue for these things. I think we should argue for these things because we recognise what the way in which the police act, and I think it would be extremely difficult to convince anybody to not fund the police. On the other hand, we do need to have them much more under the scrutiny. The organisation that exists to look into police, what's it called? The Police Conduct Committee.
Yes, the police conduct.
Is completely useless. We have seen it operating. They are nothing but a lick spittle for the police themselves. And I think that definitely, we definitely need to have a serious, independent ability to look into the way the police are and take sanctions against them. There has been no policeman done for murder in this country forever against and some of the outrageous things they did. I mean, we only have to look back at Stephen Lawrence. What happened with Stephen Lawrence from the police? I mean, how do we deal with it?
Joy Gardiner. I mean, it's a very long list.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's no question that Mark Duggan was assassinated. They
I think that
assassinated him.
that's right, and I think that is well documented, especially when you now had the, the inquiry, and that's still something that, without a shadow of a doubt, people would actually have to agree with that. But Andrew, what about defunding the police? Because I know that's something that people have discussed. What's your thoughts? I mean, at your salary, all this great work that you're doing at the university, I mean, we're paying their salaries.
Yeah, this is correct. I mean, I'm not too sure about defunding the police, because obviously we still need to keep the streets safe, and they still obviously have a job to do. If you have, if you get burgled, or something, your car is stolen, you still got to call somebody. So we still do need the element of policing, but it's policing in the correct way and non-aggressive way. So maybe if the funds were redirected into sort of positive initiatives like what I've mentioned, so like safe zones things, and also sort of redirected into building relationships with the youth in the local area, and just the local community. So maybe putting more money into local sort of schools and education, etc., and then doing things in conjunction with the actual police and the local community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all agree that we need to build relationships with the police, because it's a service that's there. It should be fair and just for everybody.
Yeah.
So is there, I'd just like Alan and Andrew just to leave us with one thing that you would like to see change in the light of the Black Lives Matters movement, which is, it's not died down. I mean, it hasn't got that force. We haven't seen people on the streets as much. I mean, COVID didn't stop people. I'm sure people are still campaigning. But what do you want, that one structural change you would like to see, Alan, because you've had a lifetime of campaigning. So what's this one thing you'd like to see? And then I'm going to ask Andrew.
Right. First and foremost, I think the protests that have been all over Haringey, Black Lives Matter, given that we are facing the most serious crisis in my lifetime, and I'm old now, there's a serious crisis with the climate change, COVID, and racism, and the state of the economy. There's going to be mass unemployment before very, very long. We need the trade unions to step up to the plate. We have I have yet to see the trade union leaders taking a serious look at it, and by that I mean they need to go and organise their own members. We have in Tottenham 2 major workplaces where there are hundreds of diverse people working. There are 700 drivers in Tottenham, diverse workforce, 400 drivers in Wood Green. These 2 bus garages are enormous. It could be an enormously powerful, and all the other garages. This is just garages, apart from all the other jobs that are going on, where we could be organising properly. I am afraid I don't see it. I do not see organisers going into those workplaces and organising.
Well, I suppose it's probably different in the 1970s when you were shop steward with 14,000 members all in Lee Valley. So it's about, mobilisation. And what about you, Andrew? What's the one structural change in light of the Black Lives Matter you would like to see?
For me, I think it's definitely sort of more equality throughout sort of the employment and the workforce. Basically, as you'll probably know, that there's not many sort of black people in higher positions across the board in whatever sector you look at, whether it's football, whether it's banking,
finance, education,
everything. So just for the whole system to change and make it more of an equal playing field, really.
So we want the just and equality for all.
Yes, for all.
Okay.
Yes.
Guys, well, you know what? We've come to the end of the show. The time goes so quickly. I have to really thank you for persevering with us. Really, thank you so much for your contributions. It's really important that these stories are told because they're lived experience. But more importantly, we've got community people sharing their stories. And I want to thank you from the 4U2 team for being part of The Colour of Justice, our show on 4U2 TV in line with AIL TV. Thank you so much. So everyone listening, we're here. You can always join the debate. It's info@4utnewsmag.com. 07778 224342, or you can hit us up on all of the emails. You can send us a Twitter, or you can look on Facebook. But more importantly, please join the conversation. But, thank you very much, Alan and Andrew, for your wonderful stories, and continue the campaign and good work. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.
No, it's a pleasure.